Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. So today I want to talk about struggle because no one here is above struggle. No one is. No one here has not struggled with something. There's always something to struggle with. There's always something that we have to look at. There's always something that just makes us say, man, this is hard. There's a lot going on, or we feel piled on, overwhelmed. There's a lot of words that we can go with that. But no one is immune from having to struggle with something. But I will tell you, and you know this from Bible study, I'm sure, and from things that you've been through in the past, that going through a struggle is how you get to the other side. That we can't go through life without the struggle. We hate it. We say, oh, it's just so hard. It's so overwhelming. I just can't do it. We say a lot of stuff about it, but we really negate what struggle can be and how it can be such a teacher if we just take a look at it. Now, I'm not saying embrace the struggle and say, ooh, this is fun, because it's clearly not. But take a look at it instead from the perspective of, what is this all about? We know in nature that struggle is just a part of living a life. A baby chick, for example, struggles to get out of their shell. If you go and help that baby chick, that struggle will end the struggle. It will result in the death of the chick. Same with a caterpillar. They need that struggle. That struggle is the thing that builds the strength and the resiliency in that chick or in that butterfly. They become because of the struggle. We become because of our struggles. Nobody's handed this just fabulous life. No one. There is an inherent struggle for all of us. We've all had something in our lives that has not been fun, not been easy. It can be an ongoing basis. It could be for a season. It could be whatever it is, but we've all had something in our lives, maybe one after the other, maybe piled on high and deep. But the point is that we have to look at it with different eyes if we are going to learn the lessons that we need to learn from them, so that we can become more about who we really truly are. Because I believe with all of my heart that, struggle's a teacher. And it shows us, it shows us the knack we have for survival. It shows us that we can get through hard times, we can do hard things, and all the rest of it. But more than anything, it also shows us the depth of our character, and it forms us into the women that we can be. It dares us to step up and says to you, you're more than this, you're more than that, you are more. But you know what we do? A lot of times what happens instead is we look instead for comfort, don't we? We're thinking, ooh, I don't want to do that. I want comfort instead. Where's my phone? Where's my, whatever it is? Where's my numbing fluid? Give me some more wine. Give me, how do I just get into comfort? Because comfort is so much better. Isn't it so much better to be under a nice warm blankie than to be outside freezing, right? Isn't it? We want comfort. Think about this comfort food. We hear about, comfort food. And I mean, the pandemic brought us, the quarantine 15. I mean, let me tell you, I've talked to a lot of women in my coaching who have gained 15 pounds or more in the name of comfort, in the name of comfort. This is because we can't go into the place of feeling like, we don't want to be there. We don't want to be in that hard place. Sarah says, I'd rather snuggle than struggle. It's true. We all want that. We all want the comfiness of it. But, think about this. We call it for what it is. We call it comfort food instead of calling it really what it is, which is usually inflammatory food. What if we called things for what they were? What if we, instead of say, oh, looking at the mashed potatoes, say, well, actually the mashed potatoes, that's inflammatory. That's going to light up my sugar, make my sugar just go to the moon. That's going to make me, all this weight that I've lost, all these things that I've done, all this good stuff that I've done, is it worth it to me? Let's call it for what it is. It's an impediment to my growth. Let's stop naming things comfort when in fact what they are is just a big old roadblock to getting you to the vibrant life that you want to live. Amen? That's the truth. So let's call things out for what they are. And what comforting is really is staying the course. It's comfort to know that you're worth more than a big batch of mashed potatoes, right? It's a comfort to know that you're worth more than this supposed food that you're putting on your plate. It's the story that I told you about me and the chocolate M&Ms in the front seat of my car when I suddenly recognized that I gave my power away to a bag of candy. I gave my power away. And when I decided to take it back, I took back my health. I took back my weight. I took back so many different things because I was giving it away. I was saying, in the name of comfort, I'm going to do this to myself. And it just, there's an incongruency there. And it doesn't keep us congruent with the spirit that's inside of us either. It doesn't keep us congruent with the soul of who we are. It doesn't keep us congruent to the truth of who we are. Wise women, purposeful women, daughters of a king, put here by God himself. Start thinking in those terms, and that comfort food suddenly doesn't look so comforting anymore, and we can call it out for what it is. We also find out how resourceful we are when we're in the midst of a struggle. We find out that we have creativity and that we have other ideas and that we don't have to be in the place of stuck. Do you understand that? Because when we say we're stuck, our reticular activating system goes full board. Okay, let's make you stuck. If we go to this place and say that we can't do anything, we're overwhelmed or whatever, our words trap us and become the prison of everything that we're thinking. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's going to have some overlying things, and it's always, any kind of struggle that we go to is never pleasant or fun. But if we put the weight of our words and just absolutely blow it up, talk about it constantly, our brain is going to look for all of that and more. Evidence to support the things that you're thinking about and talking about. That's that negative loop that we just can't get ahead of, and we can't get away from. I have a friend, Sandy, that lovely woman. And Sandy, when we were doing this whole Take Back Your Dinner Table thing, this was about in 2013, was the director of the video that we did, and we did a whole bunch of stuff, and she's just an incredible woman. She lost her daughter. Her daughter was 12 years old, walking across the room, fell into her arms and passed. Can you imagine? That to me, that's a struggle right there of just dealing with all of that. She took that energy though and brought it into a foundation that she put, a thing that she put together for her daughter. Not that she can ever find meaning in what had happened, but that so she could redirect that grief and that all that struggle and everything into building something good. We're all called to that. We are all called to that regardless of what's going on in our lives. And that's not to diminish what Sandy's daily grief is about at all. It's to say that we have a choice. We are always standing right there at the precipice of choice. How am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do? Sandy still had a child to raise. She adopted another daughter, and she had life to go on. And funny enough, she lived in California. Now she's living in Charlotte, North Carolina. We haven't gotten together since then, but we've stayed in touch. And she's a lovely woman. And I've watched the beauty of her growth and the expansion of her empathy and just everything about her, She made that choice, and we can make that choice at any point. Tony Robbins says success isn't about your resources. It's about how resourceful you are with what you have. And aren't we all in a place of having so much? We do. We might have this over here, but we have this in front of us. We still have, we still have so much that we could all list. It's not like it's all been taken away and we have nothing and we're left as little dust mites on the floor. It's not true. We also have an expectation in our lives. When you expect to get through something, you do. When you expect to be overwhelmed by something, you are. And that's why we have to guard our tongues. We have to guard what we're saying. We have to even guard our thoughts. We have to be absolutely, completely on target with what we want instead of what's going on. Then we become almost complicit. It's almost like we're working against ourselves by saying, yeah, this is going on. Here's the struggle. Oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. Okay, says your particular activating system, looking for all the evidence in the world to support that. And you will be overwhelmed. You will. Instead, if we were to say, you know what, this is difficult, but I know I have a community I can depend on. I know that God is with me. I know that I can get through this. I can do hard things. Then what happens? Evidence to support that is what becomes your norm. It's what becomes your norm. And again, I'm never going to dismiss anybody's struggle or anybody's grief or anybody's hard things. I just know within my heart of hearts, because I have done it myself, that how we look at it, how we think about it, and what we talk about and how much we talk about it is what's going to make the difference. Big time. We have to understand this is a process. Any kind of a struggle is a process. Think of the baby chick. Didn't you watch that when you were a kid? Didn't you have an incubation thing in 3rd grade where you watched baby chicks get born? And you're watching them just exhausted and wet and just, if chicks had tongues, I don't know, do they have tongues? But you watch them. Then all of a sudden they fluff up and they're all cute and they're running around, beep, 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 doing their thing. That's what happens. We are that baby chick. You might be laying out there wet and exhausted from all the struggle, but give it a minute. Allow the process, and pretty soon you'll be all fluffed up running around too, looking for a worm, looking for something. Dolly Parton said, if you want the rainbow, you got to put up with the rain. And we all have to put up with the rain, don't we? We all have rain. We have stormy days. Doesn't it make us so grateful for the sunshine the next day? Doesn't it? And this whole thing of this struggle of everything that happens, if one lesson that we can grab from this is the humility and the humbleness of heart to see things now from a different perspective. Do you think that Sandy sees women who've lost their children with a different light? You bet. The thing that's in her heart now is to be a help, to be the love, to be the light, and help these women. That was off her radar before. Now it's very much in it. And for such a time as this, it's now her calling, she believes. And she has such empathy and such beauty in her heart to be able to reach out through these ashes. Beauty from ashes. Beauty from ashes. We have this opportunity always to shift these things, to allow our empathy to grow. And if there's one thing that I've seen in this country and all for a number of years now, is just how cold and horrible we can be toward one another. How we're better than you and you're not this and all of that. And why can't we step into each other's shoes and love one another? Aren't we called to do that? I believe there's a very wise book that calls us to love one another. I believe Jesus' first thing that he said is, what is your greatest commandment? To love one another. How did we forget that? We get into the nitty gritty and want to tear each other apart and my religion's better than yours and this, that, and the other thing and one-upsmanship. And for heaven's sakes, is that loving one another? Have we forgotten the greatest commandment of all? I say we have. But we don't have to be individually as women of wisdom. We can step into this time and understand, you know what? We have an opportunity here to develop amazing empathy. This is part of the emotional quotient, emotional intelligence quotient, by the way. This is how we grow and how we become the best that we can be. And this is a time to shift from blame shifting and looking for somebody to blame, and instead taking on responsibility for ourselves. Okay, what can I do with this mess that I have here? What is this struggle trying to teach me? Looking for the lesson instead of looking for someone to blame. There's been a lot of that, isn't it? So much of it. We got to stop that Groundhog Day type of living, because until we understand that we have a lesson to learn and we need to look for the lesson, we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Definition of insanity? You bet. You bet. But this is how you upgrade your beautiful self. This is how you upgrade the empathy that's within you, by all of this and looking for those lessons and start shifting. Because who you are deeply is that woman. That's truly who you are. It's just covered up with a lot of garbage. And when we can sort through the garbage and say, that's enough of that, it's time to step into our true authentic self of being wise women who know that they're called by God himself on purpose for today, for such a purpose as living their lives as an example, living their lives as true light. And we have eyes on us. Do we know that? There are eyes on you. There are eyes on me. Are you living your best life? Are you doing this? Are you doing it for the sake of those that you love and care about, and for the sake of those who are in your community, and for your sake, so that you can find your true purpose, so that you can step into the greatness that is yours? You know, we're all... Do you feel this, how purposeful this all is? Our purposes are so important. Our purpose is to help others, and our purpose is to do it in a way that's uniquely ours. That's the part that we need to find. That's the part that shows up as we start to undo a lot of the damage that we self-inflict by saying it's too hard, I can't do it, I'm on the struggle bus, it's this, that, and the other, I'm overwhelmed. That puts us in, doesn't give you a way out, does it? I see somebody just buried in a bunch of rocks with all those words on it. That's my visual of that. But when I say instead, you know what, there's a lesson here, you know what, I'm going to persevere, you know what, I can do this. I can do hard things. And not only can I do hard things, I can be victorious through hard things. Yeah, that's the big thing. Because you know what, surprise, you are so much stronger than you think you are. There is a resilience in there that is deeply in there. You're built that way. It's in your DNA. Women are incredible. We do all the things. We hold this world together. We hold it together more with duct tape and a wing and a prayer, because that's just the nature of what's going on in the world today. But we're a unique part of this, and we are here on purpose to make a difference. Your little pebble across that lake, that little ripple effect, is something. It's effective, and it's a part of who you are and what you're about. And when you embrace that and stop with the whole I can't because I'm so this or that, it doesn't make it all go away. It brings down the rhetoric a little bit, and it gives you an opportunity to see the creative solutions, because there's always a creative solution. You can't always go back to the way things are. Sandy's never going to get her 12-year-old daughter back. But you know what? You know what? You can step into the greatness of who you are by being purposeful, by being meaningful, and by understanding that you and so many others have a struggle. They do, but we don't have to live in it. We don't have to get on the struggle bus. We can say instead, I'm bigger than that. And I'm going to step into my purpose, I'm going to step into my power, and I'm going to take it all back. Because that is the woman you've been created to be, if you're willing to accept it. If you're willing to put that mantle on instead of the victim, if you're willing to put that on instead of all this other garbage that has never done one thing for you. Never. Sarah's good and we never have to identify with our struggle. No, we don't. You know, never. You will never hear me say my Hashimoto's, for example. My struggle has been with dealing with my thyroid, but I will never identify with that. That is something that I had to deal with. But that struggle, that whole thing that I went through, all the work that I did, everything that was about it, I don't have a tattoo of a butterfly and a thyroid thing and be constantly talking about it. You don't hear me talk about it. The only time I ever talk about it is to make a point. It was something that I had to go through. And you know what? It made me a better person. And it also made me so much more empathetic. I know what it feels like to not be able to get up off the couch. I know what it feels like. But I also know what it feels like to just roll over and say, well, there's nothing I can do. I also know how disempowering it feels to have a doctor say there's nothing you can do. Well, I don't believe that MD stands for medical deity, and I did my own work and I got myself well. You know, it wasn't easy, but I'll tell you what, I'm better for it. I'm better for it, and I stand in front of you right now in remission for years and years and years, and really victorious over all of this. Never became a victim, and I never will. And that's our lesson. Our struggles can create victims out of perfectly good women who have purpose and have been called to do things in their lives. But if you get onto that struggle bus, if you get onto that struggle bus and let that ticket of yours get punched, then you are checking out from your life. Stay off it and watch what you say, because what we say is going to end up being part and parcel of what our lives are. That's how we get out of that. Your view is going to shift when you start to say things that are a little bit more positive and start looking for opportunity instead of, oh, woe is me opportunities. Your purpose becomes so much clearer. And you know what? You become more able, because suddenly creativity becomes the thing instead of all those rocks on top of you. This is how we become the women that we need to be. This is how we step into the greatness of who we've been called to be. You know, you're a wise woman. Let's start making sure that off of our lips, what is it? There's a Bible verse that says, from her lips come wisdom. I think it's somewhere in Proverbs. I think probably Proverbs 31. From her lips come wisdom. A wise woman builds her house, and a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands. Build your house wisely. Your house. That's the house you live in, this one, and that's the house that's around you, and that's the house that you extend to the people around you in your community. Be that woman. I double dog dare ya. Thanks for joining me today. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Peace be with you. Bye. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.